do it. The message of this summit is urgent.
So let's not wait any longer. Let's start acting.
Together, we can terminate pollution and stop climate change.
So, ladies and gentlemen, can you welcome Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger? Apparently, he's actually on a train right now, folks. He's on a train from Toronto here, but it's going to take a while to get here. Governor, how you doing? He says he's great, folks. I speak Arnold. That's spectacular. We're going to be hearing more from him later. In the meantime, he just wants you to know he's always watching you.
Yeah, what we see with Arnold staying in Toronto is that we are still in a pandemic, that we have multiple crises. That's why we are meeting here, not due to the pandemic, but due to the climate crisis. We have been working for years to present at the Austrian World Summit solutions. And I do think that this is more important than ever in a time where we face a war in Europe, in the Ukraine, where we have an extremely difficult political situation. We must not forget what's going on with our environment, with our climate. And that's why we thought it is more important than ever to host this Austrian World Summit. And we want to provide a platform for local and national and international politicians, a platform for business people, for the NGOs, for climate activists. Because we do think that this is in the spirit of Arnold Schwarzenegger, that we need to team up, we need to be a team and to work together for solutions. And that's the spirit of the Austrian World Summit, and I'm proud and happy that you are all joining us and that you are all accepted our invitation. Thank you so much for that. We have incredible guests here from all over the world, and the whole organization, the whole program has been supported from day one, from one person who has been an environmentalist for many, many years, an experienced politician, a professor for economics, a very political person. Overall, he's the federal president of Austria and a dear friend of us. Thank you for coming, President Alexander van der Bellen. May I ask you?
Dear Administrator Michael Regan, lieber Kommissionsvizepräsident Franz Timmermans, meine Damen und Herren, geschätzte Ehrengäste aus dem Inland und aus dem Ausland, lieber Arnold Das scheint eine der schlechten menschlichen Eigenschaften zu sein, dass man in Zeiten höchster Gefahr dazu neigt, wegzusehen und die Kraft in destruktive Aktivitäten zu stecken. Und so ähnlich scheint mir das heute auch. Wir alle wissen seit vielen Jahren um die Gefahren der Klimakatastrophe und dennoch wird unser Blick durch sinnlose Machtkämpfe, Kriege verstellt. Auch UNO-Generalsekretär Antonio Guterres, der gerade vor kurzem, vor wenigen Wochen hier war in Wien, Antonio Guterres hat auf die Gefahr hingewiesen, dass durch den Krieg gegen die Ukraine Klimaprobleme verschoben werden. Und er hat hinzugefügt, wir haben keine Zeit mehr. Kommt Ihnen vielleicht schon bekannt vor, das habe ich letztes Jahr auch schon gesagt. Aber apropos Zeit, genau heute vor 30 Jahren hat die UNO-Konferenz über Umwelt und Entwicklung in Rio de Janeiro geendet, unter anderem mit dem Beschluss der sogenannten Klimarahmenkonvention, the Framework Convention on Climate Change. Und seither treffen sich die an die 200 Vertragsstaaten zur jährlichen Weltklimakonferenz, letztes Jahr in Glasgow, heuer in Sharm el-Sheikh. Seit spätestens 30 Jahren gibt es also ein globales Bewusstsein über die Gefahren durch die menschengemachte Klimaerhitzung. Getan wurde allerdings zu wenig. Immer wieder war anderes wichtiger. Finanzkrise, Pandemie, Krieg, you name it. Jetzt läuft uns die Zeit davon. Jetzt darf uns nichts mehr ablenken. Jetzt müssen wir handeln. Antonio Guterres hat drastische Worte dafür gefunden, vor wenigen Wochen hier in Wien. Climate change is an existential threat to us all. Ich meine, noch deutlicher, noch eindringlicher kann man es nicht sagen. Sollen wir jetzt angesichts dieser Perspektive alle Hoffnung fahren lassen? Natürlich nicht. Im Gegenteil. Ich fordere den allgemeinen und sich greifenden Fatalismus zu ersetzen durch einen radikalen Optimismus. Eine unbedingte Selbstverpflichtung zur Hoffnung, wir müssen uns dazu zwingen, hinzuschauen. Und zwar so lange und so genau, bis wir nicht nur die Gefahr deutlich erkennen, sondern auch die Hoffnung und einen möglichen Ausweg finden. Bis wir erkennen, dass es nicht nur die Existential Threat gibt, sondern auch die Substantial Chance. Und in der Tat die Chance und der Wille, die Dinge zum Guten zu wenden, finde ich, waren noch nie so groß wie jetzt. Also nur zum Beispiel die Termine für Energieberatung in Österreich sind auf Monate ausgebucht, ebenso wie die Termine für die Installation von Photovoltaikanlagen. Viele solche Beispiele können wir nennen. Weil wir uns auf breitester Linie erkannt haben, dass unser Weg in die nachhaltige, unabhängige Energiezukunft, das heißt heraus aus Gas und Öl, führt und zwar auf den schnellsten Weg. Wir haben endlich erkannt, Solarpaneele sind unsere Zukunft, Windräder, Wasserkraft, Geothermie, Wasserstoff, aber auch Passivhäuser und Plusenergiehäuser, wo wir schon sehr viel Know-how erworben haben. Alles Dinge, die wir schon erfunden haben und noch erfinden werden. immer noch. Aber wir können das. Homo sapiens, erinnert sich noch, der einsichtige Mensch. Das sind wir. Wir sind nicht umsonst so weit gekommen, bisher gekommen. An die sogenannte, ich sage es mal ungern, angeblich sind wir das, die Spitze der Evolution. Wir sind so weit gekommen, weil wir einsichtig sind, weil wir unser Verhalten den sich ändernden Umständen, Fordernissen anpassen können. Vor allem immer mehr junge Menschen entwickeln mit ihren Unternehmen konkrete Lösungen, die unsere Welt verbessern, und auch das werden Sie im heurigen Summit erleben, mit vielversprechenden Beispielen aus Indien, aus Kenia, aus Kalifornien und anderen Ländern. Und genau diese Eigenschaft, nämlich unsere sich stets erneuernde Innovationskraft, wird uns auch jetzt zugute. Wird uns retten auch aus existenzieller Bedrohung, wenn wir zusammenarbeiten. Und dann wird auch eintreffen, was denen ist Targaryen, ich habe es ja nicht gesehen, dieser Film, Game of Thrones, was denen ist Targaryen, eine der Hauptfiguren aus dem Film prophezeit. We are going to leave the world better than we found it. Vielen Erfolg, vielen Dank, alles Gute uns allen.
President of the government and Arnold Schwarzenegger for convening this important annual summit. It comes at a pivotal moment. It is 50 years since the United Nations convened the Stockholm Conference on the Human Environment. But since then, few of our promises on the environment have been honored. The window to prevent the worst impacts of the climate crisis is closing fast. Our planet has already warmed by as much as 1.2 degrees. To keep the 1.5 degree goal within reach, we must reduce emissions by 45% by 2030 and reach net zero emissions by mid-century. But current national commitments will lead to an increase by almost 14% this decade. Last year, global energy-related carbon dioxide emissions grew by 6% when they should be falling. Let me be blunt. Most national climate pledges are simply not good enough. And this is not just my view. Science and public opinion are giving timid climate policies a giant fail mark. We are witnessing a historic and dangerous disconnect. Science and citizens are demanding ambitious and transformative climate action. Meanwhile, many governments are dragging their feet. This inaction has grave consequences. Climate disruption is being felt right now with nearly half of humanity in the danger zone. And at a time when we should all come together in the fight for our lives, senseless wars are tearing us apart. The energy crisis, exacerbated by the war in Ukraine, has seen a perilous doubling down on fossil fuels by the major economies. The war has reinforced an abject lesson. Our energy mix is broken. Had we invested massively in renewable energy in the past, we should not be so dramatically at the mercy of the instability of fossil fuel markets now. Households and businesses face crippling prices. Our world faces climate chaos. New funding for fossil fuel exploration and production infrastructure is delusional. It will only further feed the scourge of war, pollution, and climate catastrophe. I repeat my call for G20 governments to dismantle coal infrastructure with a full phase-out by 2030 for OECD countries and 2040 for all others. And I call on all financial actors to abandon fossil fuel finance and invest in renewable energy. The only true path to energy security, stable power prices, prosperity, and the life of our planet lies in abandoning polluting fossil fuels, especially coal, and accelerating the renewables-based energy transition. Renewables are the peace plan of the 21st century. Cheaper, more reliable and fairer energy options are already available in the shape of wind and solar. And this is true for all regions. The cost of solar energy and batteries has plummeted 85% over the past decade. The cost of wind power fell by 55%. On the other hand, oil and gas have reached record price levels, and investment in renewables creates 3 times more jobs than fossil fuels. This is why I have proposed 5 concrete actions to jumpstart renewable energy transition. First, make renewable energy technology a global public good, including removing poverty barriers to technological transfer. Second, improve global access to supply chains for renewable energy technologies, components and raw materials. Third, reform the bureaucracies and red tape that hold up gigawatts of renewable projects. We need fast-track approval for solar and wind projects and more effort to modernize electricity grids. Fourth, the world must shift energy subsidies from fossil fuels to renewable energy while addressing the potential consequences to the most vulnerable people. And fifth, we need to triple investments in renewables. This includes multilateral development banks and development finance institutions, as well as commercial banks. All must step up and dramatically boost investment in renewables. And, as climate impacts worsen, we must also invest far more in adaptation and resiliency building to protect lives and livelihoods. This requires elevating adaptation action onto an equal footing with efforts to cut emissions, doubling adaptation finance from 2019 levels. And it means ensuring that every person on Earth is protected by early warning systems within 5 years. I count on this meeting to amplify these messages. Let's work together for an inclusive transition to a sustainable world. Thank you.
And a great message there from the U.S. Secretary General Antonio Guterres about the renewables. Once again, I want to thank President Van der Bellen for your words. My German is a little rusty, but I did get your Game of Thrones reference, so I appreciate that. All right, I was really brought out here to introduce one person. You already got a glimpse of him in his train in Toronto, but he's joining us now to share his thoughts. This man really needs no introduction. 7-time Mr. Olympia, one of the biggest movie stars in the history of the planet, the governor of California. But his real legacy is this: what he's done to combat climate change. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my good friend, the legendary Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Well, thank you very much, Matt Eisner, for the fantastic introduction. It's exactly the way I wrote it. And also for pumping up the audience all day long. So you've been terrific last year, and that's why we wanted you back. So when you said, "I'll be back," you meant it. So thank you very much for all your great work. And thank you also to President Van der Bellen for co-hosting this summit with me once again. He's a great friend and a great believer in a clean environment, and he's really promoting it all over the world, so thank you very much for your great work. And thank you to the United States EPA Secretary Michael Regan for coming all the way from Washington to be with us here today. It is fantastic to have America's chief pollution terminator right here with us. Thank you also to all of our fantastic speakers and panelists from more than 50 countries. Thank you to our major sponsors, BMW, Clemens Holman and his company, and Holcomb. You're all part of the solution instead of part of the problem. I also want to say thank you to my very dear friend, Monica Landauer. She's a great partner of mine. And I want to say thank you also to the Horst Schwarzenegger Climate Initiative team for your non-stop work to make this the most important environmental summit in the world. And thank you to each and every one of you for being here, whether you are with us in Vienna or you're tuning in online, it doesn't matter. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, right now, I'm with the filming Netflix show, Fuba, right here in Toronto. And this is the reason, of course, why I can't be with you today, because I have to live in this COVID bubble, where no one can leave the set to go travel overseas, because everyone is so worried about that you come back and bring COVID back, and then infect someone on the set, and then it will cost millions of dollars to stop the filming and all this kind of stuff. So anyway, I'm sorry that I couldn't be with you. Now, if you like True Lies, you're going to love this show, this TV series. You will love it. I mean, it's been wild. I mean, I rode on top of a high-speed train with 180 miles per hour. I jumped 80 feet over a waterfall in the jungle of South America. I drove a motorcycle 120 miles per hour through the streets of Antwerp. But here's the real crazy part. I never really got wet. I never rode a motorcycle in Belgium, nor was I on a high-speed rail. As a matter of fact, the high-speed rail is right behind me, right here. Look at this. It's a high-speed rail, yes, but it doesn't go anywhere. It's right in the studio. So you see, technology changed everything about Hollywood and show business. I mean, we can really entertain the people 100% better because of all of this technology. Technology makes the impossible possible. And the reason why I'm telling you all this is not because I want to teach you how to go and make a movie and how movies are being made and all this stuff, no. I mean, it's just technology. The same is true also with the clean energy movement. It's about technology. See, solar panels, wind farms, batteries, clean cars, ships powered by clean fuel, hydropower, and the list goes on and on and on. I mean, just over a decade ago, a clean future seemed like an impossible dream. In 2010, solar and wind generated 1.7% of the world's electricity. By last year, it was up to 8.7%. So solar and wind are exploding at an annual growth rate of 15%. Now at this speed, solar and wind will reach 45% of electricity by the year 2030. And since 2015, electric vehicle sales have increased by 50% every year. If this trend continues, 50% of our passenger vehicle sales will be electric cars by the year 2026. And this is literally just 4 years away. So think about that. I mean, it's no different than the mobile phones, by the way. I mean, they started out as this huge clunky thing. Remember, you held this big brick against your ear, and that only rich people really could afford. But by 2005, 2 billion people had them, and today 7 billion people own a smartphone. Almost the whole world has a phone. It happened so fast. The mobile phones went from a niche product to mainstream before anyone realized what was happening. That is the power of technology. Our clean energy crusade can do exactly the same thing. Just look at how technology has transformed electric cars. I mean, 15 years ago, the only option was a tiny little weird-looking car that would barely drive around town, barely anyone could fit in it. But today, electric cars are beautiful, they're powerful, and they can drive for hundreds of miles on the charge. Now, I'm sure that you saw the BMW commercial, where I played Zeus, the god of lightning, to introduce the new fantastic electric car, BMW iX. And it was introduced at the Super Bowl. Now, just so you know, the Super Bowl is the #1 sports and TV event in the United States every year. As a matter of fact, this year, 208 million people watched it. It is huge. Everyone in America talks about it and can't wait for it. Commercials there on the Super Bowl cost $6.5 million for every 30 seconds, just to show you how big this is. Now, when I heard about this commercial, I signed on right away. And #1, because I was able to play Zeus. I mean, it was a dream role, the ruler of all gods and the father of Hercules, who I played, by the way, in 1969 in a movie. And #2, I love the idea of promoting an electric car on the biggest stage possible, the Super Bowl. And #3, the performance. I mean, when I heard that it could drive 324 miles without a charge, and that it has a 516 horsepower engine that goes from 0 to 60 in 4.4 seconds, I say, finally there's a car that looks great, that you can put people in it, and it is powerful. When I watched the Super Bowl, I have to tell you, I was absolutely in heaven. Not because I love watching myself, or that too, but because almost every car commercial this year was for an electric car. I mean, this is huge, ladies and gentlemen, because just 4 years ago, there wasn't a single electric car commercial, not a single one. That's what I call going mainstream. Finally, everywhere you look, the clean energy revolution is firing on all cylinders. or in this case, it's batteries. Our job is simple. Keep the engine running at full speed. It is time to put fossil fuels in our rearview mirror. Now you say to yourself, this isn't just climate change. This is a climate emergency. This is a pollution emergency. And I agree with you. This is an emergency. 7 million people were killed by pollution last year. Now think about that. 7 million people die every year because of pollution. 7 million. And this is not just a number, may I remind you. My friend Rosamund is in the audience today. Rosamund, you want to stand up just briefly, please? Let's give her a big hand. She lost her beautiful 9-year-old daughter, Ella, to pollution. The family lived less than 100 feet from South Circle Road, one of the busiest roads in London that had thousands and thousands of cars and buses and trucks driving by, which created extremely high levels of pollution. The last 2 years of her life, little Ella was hospitalized 30 times for asthma attacks. And one terrible day, the doctors couldn't save her. Yeah. Now normally, her death certificate would say asthma. But Rosamund fought for the truth to save other children. Ella became the first person whose official death certificate, the official death on the death certificate was pollution. Think about that. Not asthma, it was pollution. This is so important because we're lying to ourselves all the time. I mean, the day when someone dies of a heart attack, we just say heart attack. But in the meantime, it was pollution related maybe. Or when someone has lung cancer, it's pollution related, but the death certificate says lung cancer, or stroke, or lung failure. So I want to say thank you to Rosamund for standing up and showing all of us that we can't keep lying. We have to tell the truth. The truth is that a 9-year-old girl lost her life and all their hopes and dreams went up in smoke because we grown-ups can't stop burning fossil fuels and get off our addiction. The truth is, pollution is killing more people every year than malaria, HIV, tuberculosis, terrorism, drugs, alcohol, or war. Think about that. And speaking of war, how many wars are caused or funded by our antiquated energy policies? I mean, just look at the tragedy of Ukraine. We're all horrified by the images that we see in the news every night. But let's be honest with ourselves here. The 1,300 missiles that Russia launched in the Ukraine cities during the first 2 months of the war cost 7.7 billion euros. Now that's a lot. But during that same time, Europe sent to Russia 44 billion euros for fuel. So, of course, the Russians are upset that they're losing all their soldiers and they're losing so many of their equipment and the tanks, the planes and all this stuff, but they're saying, hey, at least you don't have to pay for this war. The Europeans are sending us the money. They're paying for the war. No matter how we look at it, we have blood on our hands because we are financing the war. We have to stop lying to ourselves. Right now, we have all the technology we need to leave fossil fuels in the past. We have a moral obligation to use this technology. We owe it to our millions of Ellas struggling to breathe around the world. We owe it to the Ukrainian children growing up in bomb shelters. We owe it to ourselves. We must do whatever it takes to eliminate our addiction to fossil fuels. We must be part of the solution, not part of the problem. Failure is no option here. My friends, technology can be our savior. We have all the tools to save the world. We can be the heroes that we have been waiting for. We can build a future where no one has blood on their hands, a future where our economy booms and our children breathe clean air, a future without pollution. Ladies and gentlemen, let's make the impossible possible. Let's do it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Governor Schwarzenegger. All right, sir. Now, when are we going to see this new show coming out?
Oh, you're going to see this probably next spring.
And when is my role in it?
You will get a role. Don't cry, okay?
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the governor, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Thank you for making the effort to be here in this virtual.
Thank you.
He might fake being on top of the high-speed train, but you can tell one thing he never fakes is his passion for the environment. And that's why today is such a special day. Today is June 14th, 2022. 30 years ago, the big meeting happened, the UN conference in Brazil, where they adopted the Climate Change Convention. Well, that was a banner day. I think it merits taking a look back.
Planet Earth, the most precious gift we have. But what are we humans doing to this truly magical place? The place we call our home is in danger.
I'm here to speak for the countless animals dying across this planet because they have nowhere left to go.
Every year, 36.3 billion tons of CO2 are emitted into the Earth's atmosphere.
I don't have all the solutions, but I want you to realize neither do you.
And this number is continuously growing. Rio Earth Summit 1992. Exactly 30 years ago, we recall the first movement concerning sustainability.
It is a message of concern. Wir sind gefordert, künftig weit sorgsamer als bisher mit den natürlichen Ressourcen unserer Erde umzugehen.
If all money spent on war was spent on finding environmental answers and agreements, what a place Earth would be.
Over 14 days, 10,000 people talk under the motto, Think Global, Act Local.
This conference must establish foundations for effecting the transition to sustainable development.
A sign of change, releasing great euphoria. A euphoria that is quickly